Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome back. Welcome back to the PorscheCooled Podcast. Steve didn't know I was going to start then. I just thought I'd just go straight into it. Normally, Steve and I, at the beginning of these podcasts, we have a little bit of a banter, and then we start before we actually record. But I just thought I'd get straight into it.
3, 2, 1, press the record button.
3, 2, 1, Steve, you ready? How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Steve's sitting in Sydney in his bedroom. He's got his cot in the background. We should explain the scenes we're in. Steve's got his cot in the background. He's got a beautiful lamp in the corner. The sun's coming in. It looks like a beautiful day there.
It's cold.
I'm in cold. Don't talk about cold. I'm in London in spring, and yesterday was freezing. It was pouring down with rain. It's pretty miserable. I'm going to introduce you and I to all the listeners, Steve, because I always forget to do this, and I know there's a lot of new listeners coming onto the podcast. People have told me that they've just found the PorscheCooled Podcast, and it's taken them a while to find it, and they've found it, and they're really enjoying it. So my name is Michael Barth. I'm in London from Sydney, and Steve is in Sydney. We both have 997s. Steve has a GT3, and I have a Carrera, just a base, just an ordinary, boring base. Carrera.
Soon to be a GT3.
Soon to be a GT3. I got in trouble. I just want to say a couple of things. I got in trouble last week. Nick, who has been on Owner Stories, the very first Owner Stories. Nick, my friend in the UK. Steve, last week when I was mentioning the 997 owners, I completely forgot Nick. And I know I forgot other people. I mean, I felt really, really bad. And Nick, I know you're listening, and I know I said this to you because I actually saw Nick last night. Nick came up to London for his work, and he's literally staying across the road from me here in Canary Wharf. He's staying at a hotel that's just across the road from the flat. Steve.
Oh, cool.
So I met up with Nick last night. We went and had dinner at a place called Ivy Garden here in Canary Wharf. People from London will know what that is. It was really good, and yesterday was actually the first indoor dining restrictions were lifted yesterday, Steve. So you could actually eat inside. It's always good food there. No, it was full. It was so busy. It was busy. It was full. The restaurant was full.
Yeah,
I was
people are
pissing down
busting to get out, right?
Yeah, and they gave you a nice complimentary glass of champagne. I'm not really a champagne drinker, but I enjoyed it. So that was good. It was a good end to the day. Today was a shitty day, but last night was good. But anyway, I just want to apologize to all the people who have 997s. And I know there was a few, and I know I mentioned some, and I left quite a few out. And I also left the people out who have had 997s before their current 911. It was just one of those things where I just said it off the cuff. But I felt bad because, Nick being number one in the PorscheCooled Owner Stories and a friend, I didn't actually say that he had one, so sorry, Nick, once again. Steve, what's going on? What's going on? Oh, PorscheCooled Patreon. Let me just do a shout out, and you can get your thoughts together and tell me about that drive you went on. Because Marco shared some images with me on Instagram, and it looked made me very envious again. I just want to do a shout out to 2 new PorscheCooled members on Patreon. Patreon, like I said, we don't have ads in this podcast. We don't have sponsors. We literally just survive from Patreon. Yeah, we're in it for the love. We're not in it for the money, but we do have a Patreon account. And Patreon, if you don't know, is a place where you can join PorscheCooled and you can pay a small amount every month, from $2 to $10 a month, and you get some benefits for that. And one of those benefits is a shout out on the podcast when you join. So we've had 2 members. Simon left a comment, Steve, on the YouTube video on the weekend. Simon's been a subscriber of my channel for some time. He said he remembers me from the Tech Art days, the Tech Art video. So thank you, Simon. Thank you for joining PorscheCooled. Much appreciated, Steve.
You still got those wheels?
Huh? Yes, I still have those wheels.
You still got those wheels? Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about the wheels last night, and the wheels, if the listeners forget about these wheels, I've harped on about them so much. I have a pair of anyone in the UK that wants to buy them, or anyone in Australia. 20-inch Tech-Art wheels. I think they fit a Carrera, 997 Carrera.
Tech-Art formulas.
Yep. Yeah, they're formula wheels, and they were a special order color, which I can't remember, but I contacted Tech Art, remember, to find out the color of the wheel, to try and get the caps to match, and they actually told me the wheel, mineral silver, I think it's called, mineral silver, but it was a special order color, he said, which they can't do anymore due to the chemicals used to make the color.
Nice.
But I had them for sale I actually had them for sale for about, I think it was 2,500 or 2,000 Australian dollars on Porsche Club and on Gumtree in Australia. And I had a guy that was interested in them actually, and he's contacted me I think 3 times now and said, when are you back in Sydney? And I said to him, look, I'll be back hopefully. Well, I said June, and now it's going to be not June.
Yep.
But I'm willing to give those wheels away at a very low price for someone just to take them off my hands when I come back to Sydney, because they're taking up room in my storage. And they come with tyres that are only, I think the tyres are 10 years old. So they come
only
equipped
10 years old. Yeah.
They come equipped with Continental, whatever they are, whatever the tyre was that fitted that rim at the time when I bought the car. But the wheels are perfect, and they got the Porsche caps, as you know, and they're perfect. So to answer your question,
They're actually
Steve,
nice wheels. I quite like them.
I looked at an image the other day again of the car. I was looking through old images trying to find a thumb for last week's podcast, actually, and I thought, they're not terrible. You know what I mean? They look. There's one picture of them on a certain angle, and they look pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Because you can't go wrong with a 5-spoke wheel that's got a bit of a dish on it. Admittedly, because they're 20-inch, I think they're too big for a 997, but they do look cool. And that sort of kind of slightly grey anthracite colour is quite cool too. It's nice. Yeah,
the colour was really good. And you know what? You're right. If they were 19s, I think they came in 19s.
Of course they did. Of course they did.
Yeah, if they were 19s, they probably would have been okay. But you remember when I switched them to the lobsters, to the lobster claws.
The lobsters are better.
And I said to you, the ride was so much, the car just felt better. I don't know what it was, but it felt, it steered better, it just felt better.
Yeah, but those Formula wheels, I've said this before, they were all the rage when I had a 993. When I had a 993 and I was trawling through Renlist all the time, a few people put them on 993s, and then they were definitely around with 996s, and they do look quite good. They're quite a nice wheel. I'm sure I think Tech Art stuff's quite well made as well, being a German kind of company. So
yeah, I like Tech Art.
They're good quality.
I mean, I think you told me at the time they were quite expensive wheels too. I think you said to me they weren't a cheap rim.
No. So,
Let me just one more. So there's one more member of PorscheCooled, and that's Craig. Craig. Well, I'm pretty sure it is Craig, but I'm pretty sure Craig is, and I don't like to mention people's last names when I do the shout out because just for privacy, but Craig joined, and Craig is P997.1. Craig was on a previous owner stories, and Craig has also joined PorscheCooled as well. So thank you, Craig. Appreciate it.
Go Craig. Go Simon.
Craig, we're going to catch up when we're back in Sydney. Craig's one of the people that wants to go for a drive with us, which will be cool. Looking forward to that. But like I said, if you want to support the podcast, PorscheCooled. What is it? No, it's not. It's patreon.com. What am I talking about? Patreon.com/PorscheCooled. Or you just go to patreon.com and you search PorscheCooled. It comes up, and then you just click on it, you join, and you commit to the membership. And that's about it. Not much more you have to do. Wheels. Steve, you know what I was saying? I was telling someone I was talking to someone on Instagram about it. I was chatting to someone about it. Or maybe I was talking to Nick about it last night. You know, I've got this idea in my head, and it's a stupid idea, and I think it's your fault because you're talking about getting a second set of wheels. No, seriously.
Yep.
So now I'm looking at I've
got a second set of wheels.
Yeah, I know. So, you've got that idea in my head.
I just need a second set of tyres, that's all.
And then all of a sudden, Instagram keeps showing me, I must have done a search for it, and they keep showing me 997s with goddamn, Sport Classic Fuchs type wheels on them, those wheels.
You mentioned that after we finished recording last week. Literally a week ago, then you sent me a text sort of saying, Sport Classics are quite cool, aren't they? It's like, yeah, they're my favourite wheels for a 997.
I remember at the time you told me to get those instead of getting the lobsters. I remember you said, why don't you get those instead? And I said, they're too expensive. But I thought, if I can clear out the space of the Tech Arts, and then I have room behind my car space to actually, I don't know. The thought has crossed my mind that, I kind of like the idea of having them. They're pretty cool.
I reckon as time goes on, they'll be harder to get a hold of as well, as with everything.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe I could just buy the rims and just put them and just store them and then just put them on when I feel like it.
Exactly. That's you mean like what I'm doing because I'm an idiot. So I'm not the only idiot. I mean, I kind of get it if you kind of have the need for summer and winter tires, or you've got track wheels or whatever else. But just sort of having a set just to kind of switch in and out like a pair of shoes.
Maybe I could do that.
Yeah,
maybe I could have some summer race tires and the Pilot Sport 2s on my lobster claws, and I put the Cup 2s on the Sport Classic wheels.
Mm-hmm. Do it. How much are they worth? Do you know?
I don't know, probably 5. I don't know, probably a lot. I haven't even looked.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked. I
don't
know
think occasionally when they've popped up, I've sent you links to it. I'm trying to bait you, trying to spend your money again.
Yeah.
Hello, Ajmal. But yeah, like I said, I suspect they're going to be harder and harder to find. I bet you they're not sort of manufacturing them anymore. But
speaking of Ajmal, anyone who's listening that hasn't been to Flat Cap Driver on YouTube and Flat Cap Driver on Instagram, especially on YouTube, go to YouTube, watch Ajmal's videos, because I tell you, he's, I said to him, he's the man of style. He really is. In that 912, he just has it all going on. Ajmal, I know you're listening. You just have it all going on. Except every time when I'm watching him in that last video in the seat, and you can see his driver's seat just goes like it's going to go back. It's like,
yeah, perhaps you should fix that one.
Yeah, and the no seatbelt thing is a bit scary.
Yeah.
But it does look very, very cool. What else? That's Patreon. PorscheCooled owner stories. It's Tuesday night here. Today, we always record Friday's episode on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, where Steve is in Sydney. So I'm going to tell you guys, the sweat that I go through for this podcast sometimes. But today I had the most nightmarish situation with the PorscheCooled owner stories, which I felt really bad because Simon's stories is a great story. It didn't go up on time. The feed didn't go through to Apple. It was a problem with Podbean that I have my podcast on. I fixed up the problem. It updated it. I was just telling Steve before we recorded. It updated it with every other podcast host, Google, iHeart, Amazon, everywhere, Stitcher, everywhere else you can get it, which is everywhere. But Apple still hasn't refreshed the feed. And I go into Apple, Steve. I go into Podcast Connect, which is where I can manage the podcast on Apple. And it refreshed it at, 12:53 today, which was before I found out what the problem was, which I updated on Podbean, but it hasn't been pushed through to Apple yet. Apple's not refreshing their feed, so it's such a nightmare. So it's still not on Apple. Hopefully when you guys are listening to this podcast on Friday, it is on Apple. I don't know what I'm going to do if it's not.
Maybe it'll just be a day late. Yeah.
Yeah, but they also archived 5 of my early episodes as well. The really early ones before you came on, they've archived those, which is a really annoying.
They were the best, mate.
Yeah,
they were the best episodes.
22-minute ones where I'm talking to myself. Tasha says, "How did you talk to yourself for 22 minutes?" I said, "I don't know. What are we doing now?" Anyway, PorscheCooled owner stories. I know you haven't listened to it, Steve, and I didn't send it to you because I've been a bit all over the place. I think you'll like it because it's another one. I say this because I know that someone sent me a message during the week, and I can't really think it was on YouTube, on Michael Barth YouTube, or it was on Instagram, PorscheCooled. But they were saying that it's mainly... In fact, it was an Apple review, which I'm going to get to in a second. I think it was on an Apple review that we mainly talk about 996s and 997s. Mm-hmm. I don't know where I read it, actually. I can't even remember. And, we should talk about other sort of Porsches. Other types of Porsches.
I don't have any other Porsches.
Yeah, well, we do talk about other ones, but that's what Owner Stories is all about. You know what I mean? Owner Stories is to bring in that different element, and which it has. It's brought in that different element. It's brought in a different, people talking about different cars. So that's what Owner Stories was about, because Steve and I own a 997. Anyway, I like the story. You want me
to talk about a Macan.
Yeah, don't talk about that. Oh, well,
no.
I think Ajmal would like to hear that, but maybe you just tell him in person. Simon this week is a really good one, and Simon reached out to me. Simon's in Adelaide, and those people who know about Australia, Adelaide held the F1 for many, many years. It's got a really, really strong car culture, really enthusiastic car culture. every time I look at cars on car sales, which you guys know is the car site in Australia, Steve, you know this as well, there's always, in Adelaide, and I said this to Simon in the podcast, they always seem to be great cars come up in Adelaide, whether they be Porsches or Ferraris, and rare ones, and well-looked after ones, and low-kilometre ones. I don't know, that's what I thought anyway. Yeah?
There's a large Porsche kind of community in Adelaide, and there must be lots of rich people out there or something that they, like all the good cars tend to kind of flock to Adelaide for some strange reason.
And they got great roads there too. I've only ever been through Adelaide. I haven't actually stayed there for long. I'd like to go down there one day and have a proper look at it. You know what I mean? I know my brother went there and he loved it. He thought it was really a really great place. But Simon's stories are great. You've been there?
Yeah, I worked on the Mitsubishi account back in the day, and they had the factory. Had the factory out there, and I remember going down there to go for a drive in a car that they were about to launch. What was it? Magna all-wheel drive.
All right. My dad owned a Mitsubishi. He loved Mitsubishis. Yeah. He had a Mitsubishi Lancer.
Yeah, okay. No comment.
All right. So Simon, Simon, it's a good story. I'm not going to give it all away, but go and have a listen to it. His father had a 82 928 S when he was a kid. You know, he remembers that sound. I think he was about 4 or 5. He remembers the sound of it coming into the driveway, the rumble of the exhaust, and pretending to drive it in the garage for his dad. So he's got that memory stuck in his head. I mean, he went through quite a few Japanese cars before he landed at a Porsche, Steve. I mean, he had a Supra, a Japanese import Supra, a rare Supra. I think he shared a Honda with his brother. He also owned a Lotus Exige. I think it was a Cup. I think he said it was a Cup. I hope I haven't got that wrong, Simon.
I've always wanted to have a go on a Lotus.
So he had that. And then he actually bought the Lotus Exige before he was going to buy a GT3. And then he chickened out, as he said, and he bought the Lotus because he was worried about the maintenance costs of the Porsche. So he had the Exige for a while. And then he eventually bought his first Porsche, which was a 996 GT3. And the guy that owned it was a local buyer in Adelaide. I'm giving away the whole story here. I better cut this short so people don't give the whole story away. But it was set up for the track. The guy had done a lot of work on it. It was a well-looked-after example, but he'd set it up for track days. And that's what Simon wanted. He wanted to do track days in it. He wasn't scared of taking his GT3 to the track, Steve. And then he's doing track days and his friends have got GT3s and then, they started getting cup cars and then he thought, then obviously it was inevitable that he was going to get a cup car. So he waited, I think it was waited for a couple of years and then he came across this cup car on a website. Oh, actually the website that I sent you the other day that James at Porsche Platz's cup cars for sale. I think that's where Simon bought his too.
And he ended up,
have you seen that site before?
Yeah.
What's it called again? 125?
205 or something like that. It's it's sort of for track cars and track gear and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And then he got a cup car, a 2003 cup car, same year as James at Porsche Platz, Fitzgerald cup car. I think they raced in the same series, the inaugural Carrera Cup series in 2003. And then he's been enjoying that. And then I think it was only this year he felt the need that, he felt the need for a road going GT3 again, so to speak. So he bought a 996.2 Club Sport GT3, which he's kept pretty much stock. I think he's going to do a couple of things to it, but this is going to be the one. He's not going to take it on the track. This is just for enjoying the roads. And that's the one that I put on the podcast. He's got a cool plate as well. But it's a really good story.
Sweet. Hopefully
it'll be up on Apple by the time you guys are listening to this podcast and you guys have listened to it. But make sure you go and check out Simon's Instagram as well, at PorscheNut9, number 9, at PorscheNut9. Go over there, give him a follow, tell him you heard his story on PorscheCooled. What else, Steve? Tell me about the drive. You went for another drive with Marco. How's his turbo looking?
Good. I don't think he's done much to it apart from clean the absolute bejesus out of it. I believe.
Did the paint look better?
No, it always looked good. It's got a few stone chips and stuff on it, but what do you expect for a 20-year-old car?
I meant shinier. Sorry, not better. I meant shiny. It looks shinier.
Yeah. He's Marco's a meticulous man, so I think he's kind of going through it all. But he's still got his. He's still trying to diagnose his rubbing issue. Excuse me. The tires are rubbing on the wheel arch liners, but I thought it was on the front when he told me, but it's actually in the rears, which is kind of odd. So might mean a tire ride height readjustment or something like that.
All right,
But,
so he still hasn't. It doesn't feel like that has to be done quickly. The rubbing.
I don't know. I don't think he's been driving it heaps. Like I keep sort of joking to him that I'd be sort of driving every day in the thing if I'd gotten that car. But yeah, I think he's been busy at work and had some other sort of stuff going on. So I don't think he's been driving a great deal.
How many miles in it? Kilometers?
40-something, 40,000.
Wow, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
low.
good. Yeah, no, Simon. Simon that I spoke to for Owner Stories. I only spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. I think it was only recorded a couple of weeks ago. He knew of that car and he said that was a really good one. That turbo was a good one. People had noticed it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Because it went so quickly as well. Marco didn't waste any time.
I don't actually know because he didn't tell me sort of straight away. How long was it advertised for? How long was it up on
I don't think it was very long. Wasn't it only about a week or so, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's
cool.
pretty, not very long at all. But it's
yeah,
good.
he told me, we were talking about it again, he told me that the owner had quite a few calls, but Marco, I think, was the first person to go and see it in person. And, the owner had suggested that he'd gotten quite a few calls and a few offers over the phone, but there's obviously nothing like taking somebody seriously when they actually turn up to kind of have a look at the car and talk face to face.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? I mean, you just have to... You can't waste time.
Well, if you're in the same state, it's easy. Yeah.
If you're in the same state, yeah, that's the problem. When you find something that's not in the same state and then you have to try and organise it, it's not easy, is it?
Yeah, which is what I did.
Simon, I'll just go back to Owner Stories. Simon's car that he has, it was he had to act fast as well. I won't give away the story, actually. You should, but I'll just tell the listeners to make sure they go and listen to it. But he had to act fast as well for that reason because it was, it could have gone somewhere else and he just got in first and snapped it up. You know what I mean?
Just kind of how I felt. And this is before, there was the craze that's kind of going on now. I remember the guy that I bought my car off. I think he was just really surprised that I'd sort of said to him, I think I kind of took $1,000 off his asking price or something like that. And basically said to him, I'll give you the deposit, this afternoon. And I think he didn't really know what to sort of say or think. He was like, oh man, the ad just went up. And it's like, yep. And
I remember you told me that. But that was a time when that didn't move as quickly though, was it? 5 years ago, wasn't it? 5 years ago?
Longer than that.
7 years ago.
7 or 8 years, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you told me that story. He was a bit he was a bit sort of unsure, wasn't he? Here you are throwing money at him. It's obviously and it's like... I'm not sure. Are you real?
Well, because, it made me think that he, when you're on the other end of it, it makes you think, does he want to sort of play people off each other and stuff like that? And as it turned out, he was a stand-up guy and it wasn't that. I think he was just really taken aback that, his ad went live at about 1 o'clock on, a Thursday, and some idiot sort of rung him about 15 minutes later and basically asked him a whole bunch of questions, rung him again 15 minutes after that and basically, offered to put a deposit down on it, pending a PPI. So...
the days when you had money, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And now look at me.
Let me just... go on.
I was going to say, back to the drive with Marco. So we just decided to kind of go for a bit of a, Sunday morning jaunt. Went up north this time, up the old Pack Highway, which was kind of cool. I was trying to remember the route because my other mate who bought the 997 GT3 took me to some roads that I actually hadn't... I'd been there before, but I didn't know how to navigate. I didn't know how to do it. Classic me, you've been in this situation before. I got Marco and I lost. But it was good.
You need to save a Google Maps of it. You need to save the Google Maps of it when you're doing it with Robin.
Yeah, I plotted it out kind of thing, but anyway, Google sent me in the wrong direction. One downside was there's a big section of the old Pack Highway, after you cross Brooklyn Bridge, that bit there.
Aren't they always fixing up that part?
Before you hit Mount White, so that whole section.
Oh, really?
Well, see, they've fixed it, but there's loose gravel sitting all over it. which meant that whole section you had to kind of drive at 50 or 60 to not damage anything. And I washed my car like a day or two ago, and I just had a quick look at it, and I've got some chips all over the wheels. So
really?
Not good. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm curious to know whether or not that's it. Like in terms of, like I said, not fast, like 50, 60 kind of thing. Just crawling through that. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, because obviously your wheels are spinning and you're just picking up little bits of gravel and stuff, and it's just flicking everywhere.
That's the time when I got a bit hesitant as well. You remember that time when we went to Wiseman's Ferry, New South Wales for the Australian listeners, and then we were going to go past where the ferry is, and then we were going to go that road. I remember it was all that loose gravel, and I had to say to you, look, I don't know if I want to drive on this road. Like, I think that was when I first got the car, and it was like, the stones were huge and they're like all clicking up, and it's like, oh my God, the car's going to get destroyed. You know what I mean? But I never think about the wheels, the painted wheels.
Yeah. So I'm curious to know whether or not, though, because I hadn't done that drive in quite some time, like as in, maybe a month and a half, 2 months.
Right.
Whether or not that's it, like whether the construction is done and they're just leaving the road like that, or whether there's more work to be done and they're actually going to sweep the roads and clean up that sort of loose gravel.
Probably not.
Because the bitumen's laid, it just hasn't. They haven't kind of cleaned the surface of it properly.
Yeah. See, I don't know what. Even if you daily drive your Porsche, if you don't, you treat it like a car, you still got to be worried about stones like that, because they do serious damage. You know what I mean? Like once they hit your bonnet and hood, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then the wheels, so luckily you got that second set of wheels then.
Yeah, but fun. It was a fun drive, like really good. I hadn't been out for a little bit, so we kind of we managed to kind of open them up a little bit, go for a good drive.
Yeah,
really cool.
I mean, it's good because I get to see photos of your car, because you never post them on your Instagram, and at least I can go to Marco's Instagram and he shares photos with me, and he's also posting photos of your car and his car. So, and they're always good shots.
I don't share, mate. I don't share anything.
And they're always good shots. So if you want to see Steve's car, you just got to go to Marco's Instagram, which I'm not even sure what the address is, so I shouldn't have brought it up. I just want to bring up two Apple reviews, because I like to read up reviews for the people that make an effort to go on there and do it. And I really hate Apple at the moment, because they've really fucked me up today, and I really hate them. Congrats on 100. Well done, Michael and Steve, and all the owners, stories, contributors. It's a nice milestone to reach. Rest assured, your passion and hard work is much appreciated by a great bunch passionate Porsche crazies. Thank you. And that was from 9974 GTS KS via Apple Podcast in Italy. And I wanted to read that one out for you, Steve, because that's Kestas. And Kestas sent me a message saying that it is real. It's not photoshopped. He is actually driving on those roads in Italy. So, okay, he's there.
Yeah, it was said in jest because it's envious, but like it did make me think that if I ever did get on social media, I could just create a fake life, and I probably could Photoshop it all together. You could see me driving on the same road if you like.
Yeah. But it was real, so I thought that was quite funny. And then the other one is, if you can't get enough of Porsches, this one's a bit longer, so this is someone that gave us a 4-star review and then upgraded it to a 5-star review. It's Andy W804 US. For all those times when you just want to chat with someone about Porsche but can't, Michael, Steve, and the guests fill that void. He said, I gave it 4 stars because at times I feel that it's too 911-centric. Some discussions about mid-engine cars, transaxle cars, the 4-door models, and even race cars. Well, this week's owner story is a race car, so there you go. Would be nice. Hoping the newly implemented owner stories would diversify the content. Like I said, this is an older review, and he updated the review. And in the update, he said, I upgraded the 4-star review to 5 stars because it's been my favorite podcast. Whether it's owner stories or the regular discussions between Michael and Steve, it's a great listen. Best podcast about Porsches. Thank you so much, Andy. That's a really good review, and we really do appreciate it. And like I said, all these reviews, if you go to Apple Podcasts, you give us a rating, you give us a review, it helps us get seen. It helps us on our journey to become the #1 Porsche podcast in the world. Steve.
Yeah, don't listen to me, Andy. Don't listen to the other ones. Don't listen to this one.
Steve, I am interested in how you found out, and last week we were chatting about market values of Porsche. I had a message from someone on Instagram who I haven't spoken to before, I don't think. And I won't give away his last name, but he'll know who it is. His name's Nick. And I thought it was interesting what he said to me. But before we get to that message, I just want to go to the fact is, how did you find out the Leonard collection happened? I was getting messages on Sunday when the auction was ending and people were looking at the values and saying it's crazy how much money some of these cars were going for. That 911T that I liked, I think went for 93 grand or something, plus the fee, whatever the fee was to, was it 6 grand or something?
6%, I think.
Yeah, so like it's close. I thought it was 6 grand, maybe it's 6%, but it was 90
grand. No, 93. I think you're right. I think it's 6 grand.
Yeah, 6 grand. So that's 99,000. 99,000 is about 180,000 Aussie, which is about 150,000 US. The value of that 911T, for example, one's in the US, good ones at European Collectibles, and another good one in Italy in the same color. They're about 110 to 120. So that was pretty high. I don't know about the other ones. I'm not really up on the values. But what I'm interested, Steve, is you sent me the link. Who Leonard was. You found out who Leonard was, and the question on everyone's lips is everyone's trying to find out who Leonard was, and somehow you found it. How did you find that?
I just was reading a Piston Heads thing, and pretty much exactly the conversation that we had that you obviously taped, which was who the hell is this Leonard guy? That was pretty much the second or third post in on the Piston Heads forum, and then somebody dug it up. Pardon the pun. Somebody mentioned that they think that it might be this guy, and because this guy also, his username for selling was Digger, and then it's possibly this dude, CJ Leonard, who obviously owns a digger, heavy machinery kind of company, blah, blah, blah. And he's apparently a really good guy, super enthusiastic, all that sort of stuff. I think somebody else piped up and said that they bought a car off him.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that was a good find. So you found it on Piston Heads?
Yeah.
Cool. Because I know a lot of people have been wanting to know. And I did a search for it and I couldn't find it, just do a normal Google search. He has a great collection, though. I mean, as I said to someone else, that's not all his collection, is it? That's part of his collection, apparently. That's not his whole collection.
Yeah. I'm going to misquote it, too, because the next obvious question is, like, why are you selling? And I think somebody just said, look, don't quote us on this, but he's got so many cars and he was just kind of doing a bit of a clean out, but that probably is just made up, so. But amazing cars.
The thing is, though, you're getting rid of... The thing that... What I'd like to know is I'd like to know what other cars he has in his collection, because he's got rid of a lot of Porsche, right? There's not that many Ferraris in there, right? He's up north, isn't he? Isn't he Yorkshire way? I think it was Yorkshire on the auction. It said he was. I saw he responded to one question. I thought it said it was in Yorkshire.
Right.
I mean, he had the Jamiroquai car, which I think that ended up selling for over 400, didn't it? The purple one, the burgundy one.
Yeah.
Like 400 odd grand. And someone told me, I think it might have been Nick last night, that Jamiroquai is up that way as well. So someone said, maybe it's someone associated with him, with Jamiroquai, because it was in the same region. I think it's really cool, though, that it is just like a hardworking guy that's got this business. It's a trucking business, it's an earth-moving business, and he's got this great car collection. I think he had pretty good taste what he bought, don't you? I think he had a nice rounded collection. But I'm just wondering what his other cars were, because now he's sold all those great Porsches. What's in your collection?
Yeah. Well, it's just funny. Like, again, it's obviously in a completely different world to us because you're talking about collectors. But if you've kind of gotten rid of a Faience yellow Carrera GT and, two 4.0 GT3 RSs and all that sort of stuff, like, imagine how good the cars are that you've held on to if you were cleaning out and you're kind of getting rid of those ones.
Okay, if you've got two GT3 RS 4.0s, right?
Yeah.
You would keep one, right? You would say, okay, I'll sell one and I'll keep one. Unless you have three of them or you have something else. It's like, okay, and you get rid of two RSs because you've got another one and you just kept one. Yeah. But you've got three. You know what I mean? This would be interesting to see what he's actually left with. That's what I would like to know. Unless you just decided, I don't like Porsches anymore. That's it. They're done.
I don't mean to sound like a kind of tool and I'm sure there are people in that ilk of person. Actually, I know of one. Like people like us kind of go, I must be like a wanker and super rich and all of that sort of stuff. Not necessarily the case at all, but I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Completely lost my train of thought.
You said wanker. Something to do with wanker.
What was I thinking? I can't remember. Well, also like when you listen to the other sort of slight tangent, if I can remember what I was going to say, I'll come back to it. But when you listen to Spike Feresten talk about Jerry Seinfeld and the way that they kind of collect, like obviously him and somebody like that David Lee Ferrari collector guy, they're obviously super rich, so they can obviously, attain whatever car they want. And I guess, like it's fair, well, we sort of assume that, money is no object, so they can kind of basically just get what they want. But they might, it sounds like if you're in that kind of game, if you find a car that might be a better example of the one that you've got or, whatever, then you just kind of keep sort of swapping them around, basically. And I guess you probably only have a finite amount of space. I think what I was going to say about this Leonard guy is like, he's clearly not doing it for the money. It's not... Like if you've kind of got that type of collection, I'm going to hazard a guess that you're not really kind of worried about. It's not like you're kind of cashing in, is it?
I didn't try to add up all the cars, but I would have to. It must be somewhere in the vicinity of 6 to 8 million that's sold on collecting cars.
It was 7.3 something, I think.
So 7.3 million pounds, right? 7.3 million pounds. The thing is, it is kind of like a once in a lifetime auction. You know what I mean? Like if you're someone like you and I and you've come into money, you sold your Bitcoin or whatever, or you've made money out of something and you think, okay, I want to get 3 great Porsches and that auction came up. Like it's an ideal opportunity, isn't it? You could pick up an RS, you could pick up the GT3 RS 4.0, you could pick up a 993 or a 964, like when you think about it, you know what I mean? Like if you had £1 million to spend, you could have picked up 3 really cool cars.
Yep.
And I think that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing where they're all there, and it's like you've got the selection. And the fact that they had such confidence, Steve, that, they listed at no reserve. And there was no worry there at all because the demand is so strong. And, you see...
because they're great cars.
And they're great cars, and they're hard to come by.
Because they're great cars, and I think in a lot of instances, like there was something about it, whether it was super low miles or they were in really good colours or, something like that.
No, it was a well-bought collection. I don't know how... I'd be interested... it'd be really good for someone to talk to this guy and find out how long it took him to get this collection, how many years he put it together, right? He's obviously a great customer, but he's obviously a great customer Porsche. I'm sure some of those cars he bought, he got them from the dealer and he got them at list. You know what I mean? For sure.
Yeah.
But I just want to read out... I just want to read out this comment, and I want you to what you think about this. This is from a guy called Nick who contacted me through Instagram, and I'm not going to mention his last name because privacy or whatever. And he said he sent me a message, and he thought it was interesting relating to last week's discussion, our discussion you and I had about the market values. And he says, I've been thinking about the market and prices lately, and I have a thesis. Lots of number one, lots of cash unspent during COVID.
Yes.
Right? 2, no more gas cars after 2030.
Yes.
3, tech in cars has gone too far. We're all longing for simpler things. These are all things we've spoken about on the podcast. I thought this is a really good message. 4, nostalgia.
Yes.
And 5, Gen X midlife crisis. Right?
Yes.
And it's like all of the above happening at the same time. So you've got this whole market. And I'm sure there's other things, but I thought it was quite spot on. You know what I mean? Like all these things are happening and all these things are just pushing up the prices. And also the fact that, as we spoke last week, allocation for new cars, you can't get a new car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even if you wanted one.
Even if you wanted one. Yeah. What were you going to say?
I think just off that, there was somebody was talking about Gen Ys as well, kind of starting to kind of get into it. Admittedly, they probably don't have the same sort of money at the life stage of a Gen X, so, like that's kind of hitting midlife crisis. I mean, I had my midlife crisis at 28, I think. But, 30.
I think 30 was a midlife crisis.
Yeah, anyway. But, I think Gen Ys are apparently kind of starting to get into the whole sort of car enthusiasm sort of scene as well.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's talk about let's go back. Let's talk about that article. And I first saw this article, and I think you might have sent it to me, and then I sent you a different one because someone reached out to me. I've forgotten who it is, as I always do. That I'd be very excited. It actually could have been Pig Monkey's Porsche. Actually, reached out to me to say you're going to be really excited in 2022, and I told Nick this last night. He was excited too. In 2022, the PCCM unit for the 997 will be launched by Porsche. That was in the article, I think the one I sent you, wasn't it? It wasn't in the one you sent me.
Yeah, it was.
But this is part of the thing that Porsche's doing. This, I don't know, I think the title was Resto Mod Craze Embraced by Porsche. So, I mean, Porsche's getting onto the thing that basically, what is it? Classic division? Individualization, classic division, to basically the demand to modernize classic cars, you know? It was very unclear, though. I'm not sure what they're actually offering. Was it clear to you?
Yeah, because I was about to kind of talk about one of the examples of it. So obviously Porsche did a press release because like a few of the kind of car sites picked it up, and I'd read it somewhere else. You sent me the piston heads version. I think I'd read like a road and track version or something like that. But I think it's Porsche Classic and Exclusive Manufacture, how do you say that? Have kind of gotten together, and basically they're offering that service where you can bring your car back to the kind of Porsche factory, and you can have it restored effectively. But I mean, it doesn't need to be an old one. You know, like how there's that Carrera GT that's been redone with the oak green paint, and then I think it's, what colour is it? Aubergine, like a purple kind of interior or something.
That must have been the start of it. Then you think that's the start of it? I read
It's stuff like that, yes.
Yeah. So for the listeners who haven't heard about that story, it was a guy in the UK, wasn't it? From memory,
I'm not sure.
I think it was the UK, who had a Carrera GT from new, and he wanted the colour changed. And basically, you shipped the car to Porsche, he shipped it to Germany, and they did the full change in the factory. So it's completely, authenticated, and, it's a color change, but it's done by Porsche, which is pretty cool. You know what I mean? I hate to think the cost to send that car there and to do
exactly.
it. But maybe that was their testing ground for it. But obviously the 996 and 997s included. I think they had a picture of a Cayenne that was like slightly done up, Steve, wasn't it? So it's not just... it's everything. It's like a whole new division almost.
They've only just started to kind of kick it off and see, look, I'm going to get it completely wrong, because exclusive manufacture is where you can personalize your new order, right?
Yes.
I'm assuming Porsche Classic is a bit of a restoration type thing. I'm assuming it obviously deals with kind of classic cars. Maybe it's not resto, or I don't know. I'm not quite sure what the distinction of what that service is, but like the notion of, like, clearly Porsche aren't stupid, like, the Singers and Dutchman and the Theon Design, there's all of these sort of companies popping up, like it's coming close supposedly to the end of the internal combustion engine, so all these kind of people that love their sort of current car, anywhere from 60s to current model. People are starting to kind of tinker, and Porsche getting on the bandwagon, and like pretty much they're going to gazump everybody too, because
it makes sense, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It really does make sense.
If you're going to modify your car, or you're going to fix it up, or you're going to do anything, like, who better than the actual factory? To kind of go and do the work.
And like you said, Singer are doing cars, Gunther Works are doing cars, but it's not just them. It's all those other companies that are doing parts for Porsche, that are doing customization, body kits, ducktails. All these people that are doing all these things, Steve. Porsche's probably sitting there going, well, we can do this and we can do it better, and it's it's got the stamp of approval from Porsche, and it's a seal of having it done in the factory. It's like having it done OEM, right? And I think that's what the article said. But even when they said in that article, it says customers have asked for suspension upgrade kits on older cars, already to the extent that these sort of options are of a higher demand today than they would have been in the past when cars were first sold. So that's a good. We can upgrade. We can upgrade. They can upgrade it to be better than the original. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
like parts like that as well. It's suspension parts. It's upgrading the PASM, they said on one article I read. You know, it's upgrading.
I don't think we're being clear. Like, I think when you sort of read the article, it sort of explains that, yes, a good part of it is aesthetics, you know, so like it's
parts,
retrimming and color change and all of that sort of stuff.
Yes.
They sort of said that they will dabble in performance things, but it could be like, you know, use my car as an example. Like, my 997.1 GT3 has the very, very first iteration of PASM suspension on a GT3. But I'm assuming, so it's not really active, it's kind of semi-active, even if you can kind of call it that. Well, it's not even active. Like, there's two kind of settings and it doesn't read the road and all that kind of thing.
Right.
I'm assuming that, for example, I could take my car and send it back and ask them if they could, you know, update it to newer shocks, newer technology, and have a crack at, you know, updating the suspension. So it's stuff like that, and I'm assuming they'd kind of go nuts with exhausts and
wheels, exhausts,
all those sorts of things.
All those things, yeah. And when you think about it, the network that they have, right? I mean, once they start rolling it out, you know, all the Porsche dealers, they might even have special dealers that do more, you know, like they have the classic centers in certain Porsche dealers around the world.
Yeah.
You know, they start rolling it out, they've got the whole network. You know what I mean? So why not do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, and I'm sure they're going to be more expensive than taking your car to, like, you know, the old school kind of tuners and, you know, places like FVD. And look, part of the fun, I think, is kind of custom picking it and doing it yourself. So there probably will be a slightly different market, but there will be the type of person that really does, you know, want like everything to kind of come from the factory and have a Porsche badge on it.
So you could change your brakes to ceramic brakes, right? Could you do that now? Or?
Exactly.
But you can't do that now, can you?
Yeah, I can, because my car, like, there was the option of ceramics.
Right, so you can do it. So certain things are... See, this is the thing where they kind of... It's a bit marketing as well, because some of these things they actually have available, but it's the way they package it, isn't it? They're packaging it in a better way. You know what I mean? Because
but
it's
even
really...
with the
it's an
example of ceramics...
Yeah.
You know, like, that if I put what the ceramics... It would have been the first generation ceramics, and they're, again, I'm sort of talking out my bum a little bit, but I don't think they were great. Like, sounded like they were a little bit brittle and they weren't as durable as you'd like. I don't know if that means that if you kind of went to them, that, well, obviously you don't want first generation ceramics, you want current generation ceramics.
Which is what they're saying in the article, that you get the most modern, it's a modernized, modernizing your car with, you know, the technology today. It's, you know, the simple thing like the PCCM unit, you know what I mean? I know a lot of people think it's expensive, and I know you said there's been some issues with it, but for me, see, I would do that, you know, even though it's $3,000, I would do it. And I was speaking to Nick last night. Nick would do it. You know what I mean? Like, and I know a lot of other people would do it. So it's a great idea. It's a great thing to do, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure about with that PCCM Plus on a 996.
Yeah.
It looks cool, but I think I just read somewhere that a couple of people said that it was a bit glitchy, and you know, like, because you're paying like $4,000 by the time you fit it, like $4,000 Australian, which is a lot of money for a
glitchy from the
like
people that have installed it, though, or glitchy is the unit. See, this is what I always worry about.
People that have it installed.
Yeah, like, is it the installation that's glitchy, or is it the unit that's glitchy?
The unit itself.
Really?
You know, and and look, I think this is going to be a kind of common thing too, because then you go, well, you paid $4,000 for a factory kind of, you know, piece of equipment, and you know, like, if the software and everything is kind of like a little bit buggy and stuff like that, you basically could have paid about $1,200 for the equivalent sort of, you know, Pioneer.
But can they update the software? I wonder. Can it be updated? Is it available?
Yeah, of course they could, but are they going to spend the money on that? You know, like, there's still only going to be a finite number of, you know, units they're going to sell, but I don't know. Interesting.
Was there anything else interesting in, I don't know, that article on Piston Heads, they seem to have lots of pictures of Cayennes that are done up, you know, as in, what do you call it? I just watched that Matt Farah video today on Haggerty's, the modified one, where he's driving, and I can't remember the name of the company, where they modify They modify the Cayennes.
I haven't seen that one.
They look pretty cool, actually, but I was just, but just looking at Porsche and having the Cayennes, like, I think the thing was that you can pick them up so cheaply, and he's talking about, I think they're diesel ones they modify. I don't know what they do to the engine. I don't know I don't think it was electric, but the thing is something electric, the name of the company.
Just like the Trans-Siberia type Cayennes.
Yeah, and one of those was for sale recently. I saw it. It was they're really expensive. They're pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
Though.
Not my kind of cup of tea, but anyway.
What else? What was the other thing you told me about the Pegasus, the guy on Instagram?
Yeah, so it's funny because like you and I have this sort of little running kind of Apple Notes that we sort of share, just, like when we find things that we potentially could mention on the podcast. So this has actually been sitting on there for a little while.
Yeah.
So when this kind of...
I do follow him, actually.
Yeah, this release of the classic and manufacturer, I wish I know how to say that, anyway, was released. There's a picture of it somewhere in one of the press releases, and there's a guy called Robert Linton who is really well known in the Porsche community. If you get on Renlist, I remember back in the day when I had 993, he was posting on there.
Right.
And the man, he must be an engineer or something like that, because he always references F1, sort of F1 technology and stuff like that.
Right.
His car that he recently had a red Pegasus, the Mobile One Pegasus,
Yes.
hand painted onto the door of his GT2 RS, his black GT2 RS.
Onto the door? How big?
And just like the sticker, the same way that you'd expect.
Wow, that's some dedication. He had it painted on?
Yeah. And, he went through the process. If you go back through his Instagram posts, you'll sort of see him kind of showing, the different shades of red. They sort of did some test paints, like they found like a particular artist to kind of do it because it's all hand painted.
Right.
Same way, similar to the way that I think Ferrari crests, you can kind of get that option, which is hand painted. But you'd never seen this on a Porsche before, and this was obviously one of the first examples of this particular kind of service being offered by Porsche.
Right.
Then it just sort of was a segue to this Robert Linton guy, who's just like an animal. He's just a complete freak, because he's got some amazing cars. He's got like a, the GS America, which was sort of fairly rare. He's got a 911R.
Right.
A GT2 RS.
Wow.
But what he does is that, so he's obviously very enthusiastic. He's obviously kind of reasonable kind of wealth as well. But if you just go and find him on Renlist and Instagram and everything, and then follow his stuff. But he basically re-engineers like the brake calipers to, I can't remember what it is, I'm going to misquote it, but it's like some exotic material like beryllium, I think it is.
Right.
And it's only used in like F1, or it was banned from F1 tech like from a few years ago. So he basically kind of takes all these parts and then re-engineers them to save weight. So the last thing I saw was it titanium? I think he's taken an anti-roll bar and remodeled them in exotic materials.
Okay.
So
well, that's pretty cool.
it's really interesting.
So yeah, Robert Linton. Like I said, I do follow him on Instagram. I had, when you mentioned it, I thought, I do actually follow him. So
yeah, you notice that like all the kind of sort of real sort of Porsche heads are following him as well, and then just to try to kind of I'm babbling this morning, but semi kind of try to explain who this guy is. Like I found his go and look at the 911R thread that he's got on Renlist, and it's 30-something pages long. It's 34 pages long. Yeah, and it goes through all the different little pieces that he's basically kind of bit by bit replacing on his car.
Wow.
And it's pretty astounding. Like, all in the name of saving weight.
Wow.
So
I haven't seen
really
that. I saw the parts and stuff on his Instagram, but I didn't really go back that far, and I haven't seen the Renlist thread, so I would definitely check that out. Hey, there's that name for classic manufacturer, and I always say they're the other name in the 70s that they used. It's in that article. But I can't pronounce it. Sonderwunsch or something. Special, and it basically means special request program.
Special wishes.
Yeah, special requests, they said in this, but special wishes. And that was the name of exclusive manufacturer before it was exclusive manufacturer. It was called Sonderwunsch or Sonderwinch. Those who speak German are laughing at me now because that's completely messed up the pronunciation. But, this gets me on, Steve. This gets me on to something, and I know, we don't have anything to say, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. This special program, would you get anything for your car? Would you use Porsche to do stuff?
That was going to be my question for you. So, like, if you had the money and you were going to go and do something, what would you do?
Or would you do it?
Would I do it?
Would you upgrade your?
okay.
They say, okay, we've got new shock absorbers that are the latest ones that are on the new GT3, and you can have them on your car, which are probably just KWs or something. You would do it, right? Things like
I
that
reckon
you would do.
Okay, like just for the sake of, conversation and just for the fun of it, I reckon the thing that I would do on my 997 GT3 would be the suspension. Be good to kind of have suspension that is a little bit more kind of supple, but still, kind of nice and firm. I don't find the ride in my car particularly hard, but I think it obviously could be progressed.
They would offer that. They would do that. It'd be the whole system, though. They'd probably have the suite. Everything could be integrated. It'd probably cost a fortune.
Yeah, and it probably would come from Manti Racing, I suspect.
Yeah.
But, yes, I do that. And the other thing that I quite fancy is
White wheels.
I really like that woven, like that woven leather that was in the Sport Classic.
Yeah, and have we brought this up before? I think I'm going crazy because I don't know why. I've never really seen a really close-up photo of that before, or I haven't really taken much notice of it. For some reason, I thought it was just Pepita fabric. No. Oh, man, when you see that close up, that detail is just so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm assuming that's where Singer stole it from.
Yeah.
And look, like it's probably stolen from somewhere else. Sorry, referenced, to be
So
kind.
this is I saved the image of it, actually. I saved the image of it for inspiration because I looked at it and I thought, well, I'm never going to be able to get a Sport Classic, but maybe I could do the seats. So I've got the picture of it. I'm looking at the picture now on my screen. And if you haven't seen it, to all the listeners, if you haven't seen it close up, just do a search for Sport Classic and look at the seats. And it's literally leather. It's woven, isn't it? It's leather woven with white thread or beige or cream thread. And it's so intricate. It's such a beautiful seat. Like it really is a beautiful, beautiful seat.
I think most people spec their Singers with a lot of that type of thing. And it's not like, I'm going to mispronounce this, but Bottega Veneta?
Bottega Veneta.
Like,
Bottega.
the luxury handbag
I think that's a song.
Kind of brand.
Yeah, I know.
That's their sort of trademark kind of thing, which is similar.
Yeah, it's a little bit like it, a little bit woven like Bottega. Yeah. But Singer definitely ripped it off, that's for sure. I think it'll be interesting.
What would you do?
PCCM.
Really? That's it?
PCCM. I don't know what else I do. It depends what they have. I'd have to look through it. I'd have
you
to
can
know.
ask.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming the point is that you can sort of tell them what you kind of want and they will make your dreams come true.
You think? I think they'll have it quite regimented at first. I think they'll keep it quite narrow, don't you? Until they can see what they... I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how they do it, like how you actually find out about it. Do you have to go to a dealer? Is it online? How do you find out about it? You know what I mean? Like how can you...
So when you look at that Robert Linton example, his car went to Germany.
Yeah, see, that's the problem, like if it starts in Germany and it only starts in Germany and main dealers in the US, I mean, if you're in Germany, I guess it's okay, but, if it's going to be done outside of Germany, it has to be done in dealers, right? So like the classic thing where how Porsche Melbourne is a classic, restoration place. Porsche Sydney isn't, I don't think. It's only Porsche Melbourne.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess they pick certain dealers to do it. But I guess this comes onto the wheel thing too. You can pick whatever wheel you want, for your new car. So you can get the lighter weight wheels and stuff. I mentioned to Steve, I just told the listener, Steve, I mentioned to Steve before we started the podcast is like, I don't know why it came into my head because I saw a GT3 that someone had transformed on Instagram. They had a before picture and an after picture and they had white wheels on it, Steve. I think it was a 991.
991, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was a 991 and they transformed it from black. I think they must have put a wrap on it. It was a different color and it had white wheels. And I know there's a lot of Instagrammers with Lamborghinis that put white wheels.
Yeah, white wheels are becoming a bit of a thing, even though we've been joking about it, right?
Yeah, you've been joking about them, but they are a real trend. And my question, and I don't know whether the listeners reach out to me on PorscheCooled Instagram, but we don't really know. But wheels, the color of wheels and the trend for colors of wheels, I mean, it's a trend, right? So it's like a fashion. We know that, in watches, for example, Steve and I both know being, watch fans, the blue face watches, and anyone that collects watches would know this, blue face watches and green face watches are a bit of a trend at the moment. They've been a trend for a while, right? Gold watches are starting to be, full gold watches are starting to come back as a trend. You know what I mean? Where everyone thought they were really tacky, they're not so tacky anymore. And I think brands like Patek and that have actually improved that. You know what I mean?
Two-tone was a thing. Sorry, can I just ask?
Yeah, two-tone.
Slight tangent. Two-tone, like golden stainless or golden white Rolexes. Like that came back for a little bit, didn't it?
I think it's still back.
Or is it still a thing?
No, I think it's still back. I mean, like Natasha's my wife's watch.
Root beer.
Yeah, the root beer, we'll call it nickname, the root beer. Yeah, two-tone Rolexes in watches were kind of a little bit daggy for a while there. But no one wanted them, did they? It was like the poor man's gold watch, really.
No.
But they really did change with the rose gold one with the root beer. But this is like wheels, though.
My dad's got one. Like,
Has
you
he?
know, my dad's 70-something, you know, and back in the day, like, you know, for... I think if you were going to buy a Rolex like of his age, it was like a two-tone sort of thing. It's like, that's so heinously ugly.
I always used to joke, and people that aren't into Rolex watches will not probably know what I'm talking about, and you'll know, Steve. I used to always joke about Datejusts and Oyster Perpetuals because I always thought they were daggy Rolexes. And I remember a friend of mine in Sydney said to me, well, that's where Rolex make all their money. And until I went to Bahrain, I didn't realize the extent of seeing a case full of Datejust Rolexes. And the variations in them are just insane. You know what I mean? Datejust and the other one. Oyster Perpetual and Datejust, wasn't it? And the variations and how many people buy them. You know? And now, you know, this is what happens with, you know, trends. You know, I really do like the Datejust 41. I think it's a really nice watch. The blue one, you know, it's a really nice watch. And I would never have looked at a Datejust.
They've got you.
And it's like wheels.
They've got you because it's just like, it
and I want to
like,
get onto the wheel thing. You know, the wheel thing. What determines the color of a wheel? What determines the color of the wheel? You know, Porsche do this bronzy gold color. You know, white is a big thing with tuning companies and people doing their own wheel colors. I don't think Porsche is, you know, they haven't yet put anything on a modern white one. They put it on the, what was it? RS, right?
Yep.
Red wheels?
The 4-liter, yeah.
Yeah. Are the colored wheels going to come back? Are the red wheels, you know, red painted wheels? Are you going to have red wheels on your Porsche? You know, like on your GT3. You know, you got a white GT3. Red wheels will look great on the GT3. But what determines this? You know, this is what I was trying to think, and I was trying to do a search for it, and I got interrupted because we had to start. But, you know, it's like fashion, right? Everything comes around. And even like my wheel, how I did it in two-tone with the silver lip and whatever. Your wheels on your GT3 with the silver lip and black, right? Why is it silver lip and black? Why are they gold? Why are they bronze? Why are they white? You know, what's determining this? Why do the manufacturers determine this? Now, is it determined by the color that they bring their cars out for that generation? Or is it determined by something to do with racing heritage? You know,
I reckon white wheels will be a motorsport thing, like rally cars. That I can think of like a lot of rally cars that had kind of white wheels. God knows why you pick white.
But why does the GT3 RS 997 have? No, 4.0 has white wheels, doesn't it? The other one has colored wheels. See, I don't understand why.
Only the white ones did, and it was an option. It wasn't a standard kind of thing. It was just the option to kind of do it. It's fashion. It's marketing. I reckon that's what your answer will be. It'll be dictated by the designer at the time. Probably sort of suggests stuff, and they will have a reason why. They'll reference sort of something. It might be historical. It might be a kind of fashion trend kind of thing. Like as an example, you know, the reason why your wheels has a silver rim, but a platinum center, and mine are black. And to me, that's sort of like a reference to a fixed wheel. But it's because
so it's going back to the heritage, which is classic heritage,
the rim
racing
was
heritage.
Polished alloy, and then the center was painted, you know, a painted center. It was a black painted center with my car. That's why I did it and why I like it. To me, it sort of says something like that.
But even, Steve, the trend of black wheels, you know, you think about the trend of black wheels and how it just went crazy, you know? Everyone had silver wheels, and everyone's got black wheels. You know, it just went like insane. Like every white car had black wheels.
Just like anything in popular culture, like probably also there was, you know, some American rapper or some idiot like Drake or somebody's gone and painted their wheels matte black, and then everybody else wants to do it.
But the gold, you know, that Aaron, is it? What is the color they call it? The Porsche color? Aaron. Yeah, you know, like, I don't know. Sometimes it looks good. It really depends on the color of the car. I mean, I saw a better picture of the 25th anniversary Boxster the other day. on Instagram actually. And, the wheels on that look good. The coloring looks pretty cool on that. It does look good.
I like the color. I don't like the design of it, but
Yeah. But I guess there's all customization, right? So I guess that wheel thing Porsche will put into that new division that they're doing, where you can upgrade your, restomods sort of division that they're doing. I guess you can. But I mean, do Porsche offer
didn't we
all these
joke about
wheels?
it before? I think, if you go and get on the configurator, isn't it an option to basically make your wheels body colored?
But if I wanted 997 wheels from Porsche and I say I want white ones, will they have them now because of this new division?
I'd say so, but
I want gold ones. I want gold lobster claws. Have you got a new version of lobster claws in gold? Are they going to do the old wheels or are they going to offer new wheels? Huh?
So this is possibly where, this is my take on it, but I don't know why, if you kind of wanted white 997 GT3 wheels, you just go and buy 997 GT3 wheels and take them to a panel shop and paint them.
But they're not OEM. It's all about being OEM, Steve.
No, it's not. That's just insane. That's where you got more money than sense.
I don't know. Who knows? But I think Porsche's doing the right thing. I mean, they're obviously seeing a market there. They've seen that they can be the leader in the market. You know what I mean? They want to have their finger in every pie, and then they're missing out, and they sort of left it for a bit too long, like they always do. We were going to talk about that other car, Steve, but we're running out of time. That Amy Leon Dior Porsche 911 SC.
I tell you what, though, just one sort of thing, though, off the back of what they've kind of released and everything. What I really do like about it is that if you kind of compare this to Ferrari,
Classiche.
I believe it's
Classiche. It's called.
I believe, with the Ferrari, I wouldn't know, but that if you kind of go and modify your Ferrari and you personalize and you do anything vaguely that the factory didn't do, you're an outcast kind of thing, and you devalued your car to the nth degree. What's really cool about this is that what I really do like about the brand is that there is room, and it sort of sounds like maybe it's even opening up even further. That individualizing and personalizing your car is being more accepted. I always kind of grappled with it, even with my car. It's not like a 997 GT3 is that special. I know it's sort of not made in huge numbers, but when you kind of own a car like that, you sort of catch yourself a lot going, changing out the gear knob or painting the wheels a color that, wasn't released by the factory. You do catch yourself kind of going, am I devaluing the car? Am I sort of doing something that I sort of shouldn't be doing because it's not like a done thing? But, now push forward, I've had this car 8 years and I actually have personalized it quite a bit aesthetically. I've kind of done lots of sort of various bits and pieces, but I'm kind of wondering that, if Porsche are now embracing it and, I know there are a lot of people out there sort of more in my kind of attitude, which is, yes, I'd love for it to be OEM, but if I kind of get to play with it and do stuff, I wonder if it's sort of being embraced even further and it's kind of going to be even more acceptable.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually. That's a good point. I think you're right.
To the point where, for example, if I sold my car, I think my 993 suffered from this, actually. My 993 was not modified mechanically heavily, but aesthetically it probably kind of was. And it's not necessarily to everybody's taste, but I think it was possibly to the detriment of the value of it. I don't think people would necessarily... I think it turned some people away. But I wonder if this is kind of like a bit of a new attitude in the Porsche community, whether it might not devalue the car so much.
Yeah, I think you could be right. It's embraced by Porsche, right? It's embraced by Porsche, so therefore, people's view on it changes. And I think people were wrong. We've said this before about your 993. I think people were wrong because your car that 993 was so tastefully done. And the last time it came up, like I said, in Autohouse Hamilton, I kept saying to Tasha, I wish I had the money. I wish I had the money. Because honestly, you just want to, that car was always a great car. It sounded great. It had a great stance. Everything about it was cool. And now the price
just changed the colour of the wheels.
Yeah, I would change it back to silver.
We discussed this. Yeah, I'd go back to silver too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And back in the day, grey wheels was all the rage, and I sort of went there. I picked a factory kind of grey colour, but if I had the car again, if I could buy it back, then I'd change the wheels back to silver.
Yep, it was a great car. But I think you're right, Steve. It'll be, it's embraced by Porsche. It'll be embraced by the Porsche community, and the purists will see it in a different way. I think it'll all change. I think you're right.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty cool if it is. Like if that is the case, and Porsche are embracing it, which kind of gives everybody else out there, like including all the purists, almost like permission to sort of tinker with their cars and have a little bit more fun with it.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I think we should keep an eye on it, actually. I think we should bring it up again in a future episode when more stuff is released about it, when they, because they've only just announced this. It was only like a basic press release, wasn't it? There wasn't a lot of information about it. I think we should keep an eye on it and talk about it again, because I think it is an interesting direction. Like you said, embraced by Porsche, embraced by the Porsche community, and, you see things in a different way, a different light, and, and it's still passion. It's all about the passion of owning a Porsche, and I think it's going to be a good thing. I think it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, mate. I think we're going to kill it. I just want to tell everyone, though, because I did bring it up just then, just do a search, Amy Leon, AIME-LEON, Dore, however you pronounce it, Porsche 911 SC. That's the fashion company that did the 964 that we talked about on a really earlier episode. It's interesting. They've done a 911 SC. We might touch on it next week. We've run out of time this week, Steve. But it's interesting because I was thinking in my head the other day when I was running that the SC is really underrated. I keep thinking what James at Porsche Platz told me about the SC, how great it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, Zuckerman's just bought Seinfeld's SC. Zuckerman and Spike, I think, have both bought it, or Plan Z's bought it. Maybe we'll touch on it next week. But I think the SC is a 911 which is still reasonably affordable for now.
I think it's that.
For now.
It's because it's affordable.
Yeah, for now.
One of the last few affordable ones.
Yep. All right, mate. Let's call it.
All right.
All right. Have a great week.
Yeah, you too. Have a good one.
Have a good day. Are you driving? You're not driving today, are you? You're driving the Macan today, aren't you?
I've got a sick wife, so
you're driving the Turbo
won't be driving
today.
anything.
Turbo.
I won't be driving anything.
Hey, that's pretty cool. You've got a Turbo and you've got a GT3. All right, mate.
So,
till next week. See you. All right, everyone. That was Steve coming in from Sydney. My name is Michael Barth. Thanks for listening to the PorscheCooled Podcast. That's about it. Bye for now.